Ever walked away from a conversation thinking it went great, while the other person was silently relieved it was over? You smiled, listened, responded, but somehow, people's eyes drifted. Their attention faded, and you could feel that invisible wall rising between you. This is the most painful kind of social rejection, the quiet kind. No fights, no harsh words, just distance. The conversation seems fine. You're friendly, engaged, doing everything right. Or at least it feels that way. But then, something shifts. Their expression dulls. They check their phone. They find excuses to leave. You walk away feeling like it went well. They walk away relieved it's over. No one tells you what went wrong. They just stop calling, stop inviting, stop sharing anything real. You're left replaying the moment, scanning for clues, wondering, was it something I said? Here's the cruel truth. You're probably not doing anything obviously wrong. You're not rude. You're not arrogant. You're simply making small, invisible mistakes. Subtle habits that quietly drain people's energy without you realizing it. And because no one points them out, you keep repeating them. You keep wondering why every connection stays surface level, why people seem kind but distant, and why you're always just outside the circle of genuine closeness. Epictetus once said, "We have 2 ears and 1 mouth so that we can listen twice as much as we speak." But listening is only one piece of the puzzle. There are 7 other hidden habits, tiny, destructive patterns that push people away without you ever noticing. Today, I'll reveal the 8 conversation habits that make people quietly dislike you. Not openly, not with anger, but silently, through withdrawal, indifference, and emotional distance. This isn't about pretending to be someone else. It's about removing the invisible walls between you and authentic connection. So if you've ever wondered why your conversations don't click the way you hoped, hit subscribe. Let's figure this out together. Let's begin. Habit number 1. You wait for your turn to talk instead of actually listening. Someone's telling you about their difficult week. You nod, maintain eye contact, maybe even say, "I know exactly how that feels." But inside your head, you're not really listening. You're preparing your response, rehearsing your next story, waiting for the pause so you can jump in. The words enter your ears, but they don't land anywhere, and people can feel that. They can't explain it, but they sense you're not truly present. The conversation starts to feel like a transaction, not a connection. They open up, you respond, but it's not empathy. It's performance. Eventually, they stop sharing anything real because, deep down, they know you're not listening to understand. You're listening to reply, "I once watched this destroy a friendship. My colleague used to talk about her mother's declining health." Her friend would nod, say, "That's so hard," and then, almost immediately, turn the story into her own. "That reminds me of when my dad was sick." Not to connect, but to compete. That's how relationships fade, not through betrayal, but through moments like these, where one person just stops feeling heard. And that's how it began to unravel, quietly, slowly, almost imperceptibly. Every conversation followed the same rhythm. My colleague would share something vulnerable, something close to her heart. Her friend would wait just long enough for a polite pause, and then redirect everything right back to herself. It was subtle, almost skillful. But over time, it drained the warmth from every exchange. Within 6 months, my colleague stopped confiding in her entirely. Their friendship shrank into shallow small talk, weather, work, weekend plans, because she'd learned the truth. Her friend wasn't listening. She was waiting. Epictetus once said, "We have 2 ears and 1 mouth so that we can listen twice as much as we speak." He understood something most people never grasp. Genuine listening is rare. Most of us only perform listening. We nod, we smile, we echo the right words, while our mind is busy rehearsing the next thing we want to say. But that's not connection. It's two parallel monologues pretending to be a conversation. The Stoics valued presence, being fully where you are, with whomever you're with. When you're mentally crafting your next line while someone's speaking, you're not really there. You're in your head, shaping the story around you. Epictetus knew that real listening to understand rather than to be understood, is one of the purest forms of respect a human being can offer another. It's your silent way of saying, your experience matters more than my need to respond. Your words deserve my full attention, not my divided focus. So, the next time someone speaks, don't rush to reply. Just listen. Let their words sink in. After they finish, pause. 2 seconds of silence is enough to prove you actually heard them. Then, instead of sharing your own story immediately, ask a follow-up question about what they just said. That small act transforms conversation into connection. Because when people feel heard, they feel seen. And when they don't, something dies inside them. That brings us to habit number 2. You one-up every story. Someone shares an experience, a difficult project at work, a long travel delay, a proud moment with their child, and before they even finish, you jump in with your bigger, better, more dramatic version. They mention a stressful client. You had an impossible one. They talk about being stuck at the airport for 4 hours. You were stranded for 10. They say their kid made the team. You counter that yours made varsity and got a scholarship. You think you're bonding over shared experience. But to them, it feels like you just erased their moment. This habit poisons connection because it turns every conversation into a competition no one asked for. When you immediately top someone's story, you're not validating their experience. You're invalidating it. The hidden message is, what happened to you isn't enough. Let me show you what real struggle or real achievement looks like. I've seen this destroy joy in an instant. At a family dinner, my niece once announced, her face glowing, that she'd been accepted into her dream college. Before anyone could celebrate, her father cut in with a story about his own university days. How many schools wanted him, how tough admissions were back then. You could see it happen. Her excitement dimmed. She went quiet. Her proud moment became a stepping stone for his nostalgia. Later, when I congratulated her privately, she sighed and said, "I've learned not to share good news with Dad. He always makes it about himself." She wasn't angry, just resigned. And that resignation, it's far worse than anger. It's the quiet death of wanting to share anything real with someone. Marcus Aurelius once wrote, "Nowhere can a person find a quieter or more untroubled retreat than in their own mind." But he also knew that ego never truly rests. It constantly seeks to prove itself superior. The urge to one-up doesn't come from strength. It comes from insecurity, a desperate need to show that your experiences matter more. We just talked about how the need to one-up others often comes from insecurity, from that quiet fear that someone else's light might dim our own. Marcus Aurelius spent his entire life fighting that exact impulse. He constantly reminded himself that other people's victories don't take anything away from his own, and that their struggles don't need to be measured against his. He understood that true strength isn't loud. It doesn't compete. It allows others to shine without feeling threatened by their brightness. When you let someone else's story stand as it is, without comparison, without interruption, you're showing confidence. But when you rush to reclaim the spotlight, you're revealing the opposite. That deep, fragile insecurity hiding beneath your need to be seen. So next time someone shares an experience, resist that urge to say, "That reminds me of the time when I..." Instead, pause. Ask a question about what they said. Validate their moment before connecting it to your own. Let their story breathe. Let it belong entirely to them, because that small act, letting someone have their space, says more about your character than any clever response ever could. And if this lesson just made you realize that maybe, just maybe, you've been turning conversations into competitions, type in the comments below, "I'm listening now." Acknowledging the pattern is the first step toward breaking it, and your honesty might give someone else permission to do the same. Now, let's move to the next habit, one that drains people's emotional energy without you even realizing it. Habit number 3. You give unsolicited advice. Picture this. Someone opens up about something painful they're going through. Before they even finish the first sentence, your mind is already solving it. You jump in with what they should do, how they ought to handle it, the steps they need to take. You think you're being helpful, but to them, it feels like you just brushed aside their feelings to get to your solution. The truth is, most people don't share their problems because they want answers. They share them because they want to be heard, validated, and understood. When you immediately shift to giving advice, you skip the part they actually needed most. This habit quietly damages connection because it sends a clear message. Your emotions don't matter. Let's just fix this and move on. When someone's describing something difficult and you cut in with solutions, you're treating their pain like a technical issue to be solved, not a human experience to be felt. They wanted empathy. You gave them a checklist. Over time, people learn that you're not a safe space for vulnerability. Not because you're cruel or cold, but because you make vulnerability feel like a problem, not a moment of connection. A friend of mine learned this the hard way with her teenage daughter. Whenever her daughter came to her, talking about friend drama, school pressure, or heartbreak, my friend would listen for maybe 30 seconds, then shift straight into advice mode. "What you need to do is, here's what you should say." She's probably thinking this, so try that. She thought she was being a caring mother, guiding her daughter through life's storms. But slowly her daughter stopped coming to her. She'd share little things, surface-level updates, but never what truly hurt. Years later, during family therapy, the truth finally surfaced. Her daughter said, "Mom, I didn't need solutions. I just needed you to sit with me, to say it's hard, to make me feel less alone." Her mother's well-meaning advice had built a wall between them, a wall made of good intentions but poor understanding. Epictetus once taught, "Know first who you are, and then adorn yourself accordingly." In conversation, that means knowing what the moment requires before you act. Not every problem is a call for action. Sometimes the most powerful thing you can offer isn't advice, it's presence. The Stoics understood restraint. They knew that wisdom isn't just about saying the right thing, but about knowing when to say nothing at all. The urge to fix others comes from our own discomfort with pain. We want to tidy it up, solve it fast, and so we don't have to sit in the heaviness of it. But here's the truth. That discomfort isn't theirs to carry. It's ours. We learned that when you rush to give advice, you're not actually helping them. You're soothing your own discomfort. You're managing your need to fix, not their need to be heard. So before offering advice, pause for just a moment and ask one simple question. Do you want to talk through solutions, or do you just need someone to listen? Then whatever they answer, honor it. Because sometimes the most healing thing you can do is not to fix, not to guide, not to analyze, but simply to be fully present. Your silence can be medicine. Your calm attention can be more powerful than any solution. But the next habit goes even deeper, and it makes people feel like they don't actually matter in the conversation. Habit number 4. You bring every topic back to yourself. It starts subtly. Someone mentions they're thinking about changing careers. Within 2 sentences, you're talking about your career journey, your professional path, your philosophy about purpose and passion. They bring up a book they're reading. Suddenly, it's about your favorite books, your opinion of the author, your reading habits. No matter the topic, somehow every thread of conversation circles back to you. You think you're connecting, sharing common ground, but they feel like they've just become the background actors in a show called Your Life. This habit quietly kills connection because it turns the other person into an audience, not a participant. They stop feeling like they're in a conversation. They feel like they're attending a performance. When every idea they bring up gets redirected to your own story, they eventually stop bringing up ideas at all. Why bother sharing when every sentence just becomes a new opening act for your monologue? It's not a dialogue anymore, it's a takeover. They came to talk with you, but they leave feeling like they've been talked at by you. My neighbor once told me about her experience with a local book club. Every month they'd gather, excited to discuss a new story. What moved them, what they questioned, what lingered in their minds after reading. But there was one member, always one, who hijacked every discussion. Someone would share a thoughtful point, and within seconds she'd jump in. Well, that reminds me of my experience when I read... And then she'd go on for 5 minutes, analyzing her interpretation, comparing it to other books she'd read, explaining her opinions on the author's earlier works. Every topic turned into her perspective. Every discussion became her performance. After 6 months, something changed. People stopped sharing meaningful thoughts. They stuck to shallow, polite comments, safe ones, because they knew any depth would only invite another long, self-centered monologue. What had once been a rich, lively exchange of ideas turned flat. Not because people had run out of thoughts, but because they'd learned that sharing meant surrendering the conversation. The woman didn't even realize what she was doing. She thought she was being enthusiastic, passionate, contributing, but in truth, she was suffocating everyone else's voice. Marcus Aurelius wrote about this exact problem, the danger of letting ego dominate our interactions. He reminded himself daily to listen, not to respond, but to understand. He knew that the ego constantly craves the center, always wanting to make every story, every idea, every moment about itself. True wisdom, he said, is learning to restrain that impulse. Because when you allow a conversation to stay focused on someone else's story, you're not losing control. You're showing respect. You're saying, your inner world matters as much as mine. But when you keep redirecting every topic back to yourself, you're sending another message entirely, one that people can feel instantly. Your world isn't as interesting as mine. And when people feel that, they stop sharing. They stop opening up. Eventually, they stop engaging altogether, because what you think is a conversation isn't. It's a performance. And they're just the audience. We talked about how to resist, making every conversation about yourself, how to hold space for others, and keep the spotlight where they placed it. So when someone introduces a topic, stay with their thread, follow their train of thought. Ask follow-up questions that help them open up more deeply before you share your own experience. And if you do share something related, keep it short. Then gently steer the focus back to them. Let their story breathe. Let their words finish echoing before you add your own. That's how respect sounds in a conversation. If these lessons are starting to make you recognize small patterns that might have quietly been pushing people away, subscribe for more Stoic insights on authentic human connection. And if this video is helping you see things more clearly, like it, so others can recognize the invisible barriers in their own conversations too. Now, let's talk about the next habit, one that makes people lose their desire to speak halfway through a sentence. Habit number 5. You interrupt and finish people's sentences. It seems harmless at first. Someone's in mid-thought, searching for the right word, trying to express something important, and you jump in. You complete their sentence for them, or worse, cut them off to insert your own point before they've even finished theirs. You think you're being helpful, showing that you understand, keeping the flow alive, maintaining momentum. But to them, it doesn't feel helpful at all. It feels like disrespect, like their thoughts aren't worth the patience it takes to let them finish. Because every interruption sends a silent message. What you're saying isn't important enough for me to wait. I already know where you're going. My addition is more valuable than your completion. This habit slowly erodes connection because it steals people's agency in a conversation. When you interrupt, what you're really saying is, my thoughts matter more than yours. My pace matters more than your process. Some people need a little more time to articulate complex thoughts. Some pause to choose their words carefully. Your interruption doesn't help. It derails. And when someone keeps getting interrupted, they stop trying. They shorten their sentences. They censor their thoughts. They learn that speaking deeply only leads to being cut off midway. I once saw this pattern destroy a marriage. The husband, not out of cruelty but habit, interrupted constantly. His wife would start telling a story from her day, and before she could reach her point, he'd jump in, offering a fix, asking a question, or shifting the focus to something he found more interesting. In therapy, she said something that still haunts me. I feel invisible in my own home. It wasn't that he didn't love her. He did. But he never let her finish a complete thought. So she stopped sharing anything that required more than one sentence. Because what was the point? When he finally realized, he was stunned. He had genuinely believed he was being engaged and attentive, keeping the conversation dynamic. But to her, it felt like being dismissed over and over again, as if her words weren't worth the patience it took to truly listen. The habit had been quietly suffocating her voice for years. Seneca once wrote that patience is the foundation of wisdom. He believed that impatience reveals a lack of respect for another person's dignity. When you can't wait for someone to finish their thought, you're not showing intelligence. You're showing discomfort. You're prioritizing your fear of silence over their right to full expression. Seneca practiced deliberate pauses in his conversations. He trained himself to wait, to let the other person's words land before responding. He understood something profound. Interruption isn't just rude. It's a small act of violence against someone's attempt to be understood. Because every time you interrupt, you're saying, my need to speak is more urgent than your need to be heard. And that message, repeated enough times, changes everything. It piles up. It hardens into distance. Eventually, people just stop speaking around you altogether. So here's a small Stoic practice. After someone finishes speaking, pause for 2 full seconds before you respond. Let silence exist. Let their words settle. It not only shows respect, it also ensures they're truly done. And if you catch yourself about to interrupt, stop. Close your mouth, breathe, wait. Because the moment you do, something powerful happens. The conversation becomes human again. We just talked about how impatience and constant interruption can quietly silence people. But sometimes it isn't interruption that kills connection. It's shallow curiosity. Habit number 6. You only ask surface-level questions. You ask, how was your weekend? They say, fine. You ask, how's work? They say, busy. You ask, did you enjoy your vacation? They say, yeah, it was nice. And just like that, the conversation ends. You think you're being polite, showing interest. But to them, it feels like you're going through the motions. They sense it. They feel that your curiosity isn't real. Surface questions bring surface answers. And surface answers don't build connection. This habit slowly erodes relationships because it keeps everything at arm's length. When you never go deeper than the usual updates, you're sending a silent message. I don't really want to know you. I just want to perform the ritual of asking. People can feel this emptiness. They realize that talking to you will always stay shallow, so they stop offering depth. Not because they lack it, but because you've never created space for it. Eventually, those relationships plateau. You know their job title, their hobbies, maybe where they went last summer, but you know nothing about their inner world. I once knew a man who constantly complained that he couldn't form close friendships. He met plenty of people, was friendly with everyone, but nothing ever went beyond small talk. I decided to observe him at a gathering. He'd walk up to someone and ask predictable questions about their work, their commute, their weekend plans. They'd answer politely and he'd nod, smile, then move on to the next person. At one point, someone mentioned feeling overwhelmed at work. He could have asked, "What's been overwhelming?" Or "How's that affecting you?" But instead he asked, "So what time do you usually get home?" Later, another person mentioned that their daughter had just started college. Instead of asking, "Oh, how do you feel about that?" Or, "What's been the hardest part of the transition?" He simply said, "Oh, nice." What's she studying? Every time a doorway opened into something real, he stayed on the porch. He wasn't cold. He wasn't arrogant. He just didn't know how to go deeper. He had learned conversation as an exchange of facts, not as an exploration of feeling. Marcus Aurelius wrote about this very thing, the importance of genuine curiosity about others' inner lives. He reminded himself not to ask only what people do, but why they do it. What moves them, what troubles them, what gives their lives meaning. He understood that surface questions are safe, but they're also sterile. Real connection always requires risk. The risk of being curious enough to touch what's real. Because when you ask someone how something made them feel, or what they're learning, or what they're struggling with, you're not just making small talk, you're inviting them to be seen, and most people are starving for that. They want to be seen, but they won't offer that depth unless you ask for it. So start replacing status questions with experience questions. Don't just ask what they did, ask what it was like. Don't just ask how things are, ask what's been on their mind lately. Create space for depth by asking for it. If you're beginning to learn how to ask questions that go beneath the surface and build real connection, subscribe for more Stoic wisdom on meaningful relationships. And if this insight helps you understand why your conversations may have stayed shallow, like this video, so others can discover how to go deeper too. Because the next habit is one that makes people feel drained just from talking to you. We talked about how shallow curiosity limits connection, how staying on the surface keeps conversations lifeless. But this next habit doesn't just limit connection, it actively destroys it. Habit number 7. You make everything a debate. Someone casually mentions they're trying a new approach to something, maybe a new diet, a new idea, or a new mindset. Before they can even finish, you jump in to point out all the flaws. They share a perspective on a current event. You counter it immediately with why they're wrong. They say they enjoyed a book or a movie, and you explain why it wasn't actually that great. You think you're being logical, engaging critically, maybe even helping them see both sides. But what they feel is attack. To them, every conversation with you becomes an exhausting defense trial, not an exchange of ideas, but a constant need to justify themselves. This habit quietly poisons relationships because it makes every interaction feel like a sparring match. When people know that anything they say will be dissected, challenged, or corrected, they stop saying anything real. Not because they can't defend themselves, but because they're simply tired of having to. They didn't come for a debate. They came for connection. But you turned conversation into combat. Eventually, people start to play it safe. They keep topics light, bland, emotionless, because every bit of depth feels like stepping into a battlefield they never agreed to enter. I saw this pattern firsthand with my uncle. He was sharp, articulate, and proud of his intellect. But over time, that very strength became his downfall. Every family gathering, every casual chat became an opportunity for him to set the record straight. Someone mentioned they were considering switching to an electric car, and he'd spend 10 minutes explaining why it was impractical, inefficient, and overpriced. Another person would say they liked a new restaurant. He'd immediately list reasons it was overrated, overhyped, or a poor use of money. One cousin once mentioned she'd started meditating. He launched into a lecture about how meditation was pseudoscience, unsupported by data. He genuinely believed he was helping people think critically, that he was saving them from ignorance or bad decisions. But what he was actually doing was driving everyone away. Family dinners got quieter, invitations stopped coming, and when he did show up, people stuck to small talk, weather, traffic, sports, because no one wanted to risk offering an opinion, only to watch him tear it apart. He couldn't understand why people seemed distant. He thought he was being engaged, intellectually stimulating. They found him exhausting. Even hostile Epictetus once wrote, "If someone speaks badly of you, consider whether what they say is true. If it is, correct yourself. If it isn't, ignore it." But he also taught something equally important. Choose your battles. Not every incorrect statement needs correction. Not every differing opinion deserves a debate. He understood that being right isn't always the same as doing right. Sometimes connection matters more than correction, because when you challenge everything someone says, you're not proving intelligence, you're proving that your need to be right matters more than their need to feel safe expressing themselves. Epictetus practiced restraint in conversation. Before speaking, he would ask himself, will this correction serve the relationship or only my ego? Most of the time, he chose silence, not because he agreed, but because he valued the person more than the point. So, before you correct someone or prove them wrong, ask yourself, will this strengthen our connection or just prove I'm right? If it's the latter, let it go. Save your intellectual energy for discussions that are meant to be debates, not for moments that were meant to be shared. Because sometimes, wisdom means walking away from the urge to win. And now, we come to the final habit, the one that destroys trust faster than any other. Habit number 8. You share people's private information with others. We saw how breaking someone's trust can shatter the foundation of any relationship. And now, let's look deeper into what really happens when that sacred bond is broken. Maybe you didn't mention their name, but the details were enough for people to know exactly who you were talking about. And whether you meant harm or not, it doesn't matter. You've broken something sacred. They trusted you with something private. You treated it like public information, and that kind of trust, it doesn't come back. This habit doesn't just damage connection, it destroys it. Because when someone finds out you've shared what they told you in confidence, they don't just feel betrayed, and they feel exposed, vulnerable, unsafe. Suddenly, every private thing they ever told you becomes suspect. They start to wonder, did you tell someone else that too? Who else knows? The relationship can't recover because the foundation, trust, is gone. And once you've established yourself as someone who can't keep confidence, people stop confiding in you altogether, not just about big things, but about anything real. They'll keep conversations light, distant, and polite because they no longer feel safe being seen. I once knew a woman who learned this lesson in the hardest way possible. At work, a colleague confided in her about struggling with anxiety, how it was affecting her focus, how she feared being judged by others. The woman, thinking she was being kind, mentioned it to another co-worker. She framed it as concern. Within a week, half the office knew. The anxious co-worker found out not from her, but from someone else asking, "Hey, are you okay?" "I heard you've been struggling." She was devastated, humiliated. She had shared something deeply personal with one person she believed she could trust. And that person had turned her pain into casual conversation. From that day on, she never spoke to the woman again, except for strictly professional matters. The woman apologized again and again, insisted she'd only meant well, that she hadn't intended harm. But none of it mattered, because once trust is broken, good intentions don't fix it. The friendship didn't end in anger, it ended in silence. Cold, permanent distance. Marcus Aurelius wrote deeply about integrity, about the sacredness of trust. He understood that when someone gives you their confidence, they're giving you something they can never take back. Protecting that confidence isn't just about being a good person. It's about honoring the courage it takes for someone to trust. You with their inner world, Marcus taught, when you betray trust, you're not just hurting them and you're revealing yourself. You're showing that you value the social currency of having something to say more than. You value the person who gave it to you. If someone shares something personal, treat it as sacred. If you're not sure whether it's private, ask. If you still doubt, default to silence. Protecting someone's trust will always matter more than having something interesting to talk about. These 8 habits aren't signs that you're a bad person. They're signs that you're human and unaware. Most of us do at least 3 of these without realizing the quiet damage they cause. The difference between people who build deep, meaningful connections and those who unintentionally push others away isn't intent. It's awareness. The Stoics understood that relationships require constant self-examination, not to become perfect, but to remove the invisible barriers we unknowingly create. Marcus Aurelius practiced this daily, noticing his own patterns, correcting his tone, adjusting his behavior, and striving to connect genuinely without letting ego get in the way. You don't have to fix all 8 habits overnight. Just choose one that resonated with you. Focus on it for 2 weeks. Notice when you do it. Pause. Choose the alternative, and then watch what happens. Watch how conversations shift when you remove just one wall between you and the people around you. If these 8 habits brought you clarity about why some connections never deepened, subscribe for more Stoic wisdom on authentic communication and meaningful relationships. And if this message helped you see your own patterns without shame, just awareness, like this video so others can begin that same reflection. Connection isn't complicated. It's just hidden beneath small habits that quietly push people away. Now you know what they are. Thank you for being here. Until next time, stay stoic, stay aware, stay connected.